Okay.
Got it. Yeah, I was just thinking about this environmental education thing before we came onto this meeting, and I thought, actually, it's not just about loudwater. Icone was set up to provide environmental education centres, probably across Europe, but maybe even further afield. And I think the first time it was talked about some years ago, there was quite a lot of interest across the zone for trying to build these centres in other places like Spain and Portugal, France and Italy. And actually the Norwegians got it too. And when I was in Scotland and went on a visit to Norway, I was told that there were some members up in the far north of Norway who were still working on the idea of that Icone had presented some years earlier. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. And they showed me the stuff that I'd originally sent to them, you know, a long time ago. And that was at the start of Premier Hotels, because I was working with Richard Hamer at the time, who was a planning guy in an architectural practice. And he had a client that had a site on the edge of the Yorkshire Dale National Park. And he asked me to go and have a look at that site with him and come up with some suggestions for its development. And it was there that I came up with the idea originally of building an environmental education centre for children. Because at the time I was a chair of governors at a school, and part of the school curriculum was to send children on a kind of week-long expedition or trip to look at environmental issues. And actually there was nowhere of good enough standard for these kids to go. And usually it was their own teacher that tried to tell them things about the environment. And we kind of felt at the time that it would be better if the place was purpose-built, where kids could go and stay for a few days or a week and explore the natural environment, but actually be taught by environmentalists, people that knew what they were talking about, rather than have the teachers, you know, ad lib once they got there. So when we walked around Loudwater at the Southern Britain's National Congress a few weeks ago, you know, it struck me what a very nice environmental setting there is there next to the River Chess, and how if Loudwater was changed and the accommodation improved and the outbuildings used for teaching about environmental issues, it could fit quite nicely with that. And thinking this afternoon briefly about it, I thought, well, maybe it would sit better with the Loudwater and Southern Britain trustees if it was represented as not just about Loudwater, but as a possible international project, you know, and other members of the zone might support something initially on the understanding that they might get one of these centres at their place. And from what I know about Bucellas, for instance, it's a nice environment, but I think the development plans they've got for that aren't very exciting. And maybe an environmental education centre would sit better there than, I don't know what they're planning to do with it. I don't know. The local authority, I think, wants something to do with tourism, but I don't know. So they were my thoughts, opening thoughts.
So, I mean, there's a few takeoffs that I get from your thing there. Multinational, purpose-built, stay for a week, international project
Mm.
and using the core facility, the current facilities at Loudwater as
Yeah. And
producing
Icona, and
record
Icona,
under Icona, yes.
yeah, which is already established as a charity for teaching environmental issues, about the environment.
So your view on this is that it's an educational facility for schools or students at least.
Yeah.
Maybe for what kind of range of ages do you think you?
Well, I mean, I think we have to fit the centre for the location really, and the sort of thing that you got at Loudwater. It's a bit smaller than the site that we had up on the Yorkshire Dales, and the Yorkshire Dales National Park was a much more interesting place than Rickmansworth Park. But having said that, I'd have thought that accommodation for 30 or 40 people, 30 or 40 kids and their teaching staff at Loudwater might be doable. Whereas we had a much bigger idea than that for this national park development. And we thought that apart from children using it, if it was designed properly, it could appeal to adults too, to go for weekends or passing trade or tourists, as well as children learning about the environment. Yeah, because the scale of it makes it possible to do a bit more. Anyway, they were just my thoughts.
I just want to bring up the Google Earth image of Loudwater of Rickmansworth Park.
Oh yeah.
This is Loudwater Farm down here.
Oh yeah.
See?
Yep.
This is the Royal Masonic School for Girls.
Yes.
As you can see there, this is the road at the M25. This is Loudwater Lane down there. And this area is the Rickmansworth Park, but it's within an area. If we zoom out, you can see that that it's part of a much larger area of
yes, green belt.
Open area.
Yeah.
Quite a treasure in many ways because it's,
yes.
It's actual proximity to the M25.
Yeah.
So zooming back in again.
Well, that makes me
think if one was linking it in some way to other areas, there is actually no shortage of space here. No doubt this is kind of green belt, but this is a thing about this thing itself, this Royal Masonic School for Girls had been built there. That no doubt was part of the green belt, and it just shows the influence that the Masons, who are the owners of this land, have on what goes on their land, and whether you can use any of this area for, I mean, if you have, you can see the Loudwater Farm there. If you can spread out into this area.
Yes.
I think probably you would not come down to this area, but you might well. I mean, this goes down the hill and then up the hill again. This is going up the hill towards the girls' school. There are areas you could possibly include in this field. I think is particularly interesting.
And if you go a bit further south to where the old bridge is across the river, we could put a new bridge there.
What are you talking about here?
To the left, that bit there. Oh, you can't see where I'm pointing.
Oh yeah.
But just at Loudwater Farm, where the existing rickety bridge is over the river.
Oh yeah, just even here. Yeah.
Yeah. If you built a proper bridge there and had a pond, a big pond in that wetland area, because that's all sort of wetland down there.
down here.
reeds and things.
Yeah.
The plants that grow there are wetland plants, I think. And I think you could put a lake there and make the whole thing a bit more attractive. Yeah.
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 Well, you can see that there is undeveloped part of Loudwater Farm in this area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to a certain extent up on this end.
Yes.
So there are a couple of areas where development may well be able to take place.
And is it a public footpath? There's a public footpath through it, isn't there? Up to the top and across, because people use it to walk up to the railway station. So you must be able to walk along the riverside, pedestrians of any sort. There must be
along the River Chess.
Yes, up towards the school, and then
this is the River Chess.
Yes, absolutely.
Around here, goes along there.
Yeah.
I think this may well be the
path.
The path that you're thinking of.
I've never been on it, but I've heard that people use it all the time to get up to Rickmansworth to catching a train.
I guess they go up here. Then up into
to that roundabout there. Yeah, that's where it is. So I thought that although the school might not like us using the whole of Rickmansworth Park, there, you can learn a lot just going up the public footpath.
Well, I think Loudwater Farm itself is a reasonably substantial piece of real estate.
Yeah.
There are, to me, there are a few planning issues that would be relevant. This road here, Loudwater Lane, is not very wide. It's not 2 lanes. It's only just 2 lanes.
Traffic issues, definitely.
And people would, residents down here, as you can see, there's actually quite a lot of quite a lot of residents here. It's mainly come off there. They also come down this end, but this lot really all come off that. So you could make a case for intensification that there's quite already a significant amount of traffic on here. But there may well be traffic issues coming in.
Yeah, I think there would be. Because that's, Loudwater Lane is a bit like Millionaire's Row. It's only a couple of 100 yards down the hill, but actually they're very, very pricey houses.
What is interesting is the main entrance to
the school. Yeah.
The school this is the main road, and this is a major entrance here.
Yeah.
And that certainly has got capacity. It's already got a little bit of a slip road in there, and
there's more than a school on that side.
And it goes to the school, but it also goes to this up here, which is the Nuffield Health, Fitness and Wellbeing Centre. It's basically a big gym. But it's actually obviously quite a big user, and there's a lot of people come and use that. And as you can see also here, there's this thing called Rickmansworth Army Cadets. So that there are a number of this has got capacity. Whereas there's nothing really along here that you get into. But
what's that little road there? There's a little road there going down into the field, isn't there? I noticed. Going down towards the farm. No. There, we're just below where your cursor is there.
Yeah.
There's a little hut or something down there.
This down here.
Yeah. Just down there. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, this is. I think this is part of. What's that? I think this is part of the school facility. Well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah. But it could be a nice way down to the environmental education.
It could, and there's established woodland here, as you can see, and there's an area there. So something in this area
might be okay.
Might well be okay.
As a stepping stone to going down to the farm. I mean, Mr. Carson, who's the headmaster at the school, was quite clear with me in saying not only did he think it was quite a good idea and fitted with the plan, the 5-year plan for the school, but he said he didn't want it to be just for their school. He thought that something that was available to all school children in the area or the region would be quite appropriate and
well, there's
something that they think would go
there's
up
another
north.
school. There's another school down here.
Well, they might be worth talking to as well. Well, of course, the local authorities, education authority, would have to be
down this end. There's a school. I don't know what it's called, but you know, these are sports fields for that school.
Yeah,
and that is that's a road in that way. I've never actually myself been down there, so I don't know what that is like. But there are other possibilities, and you can see. Actually, that doesn't go this way. We walked. I remember you and I walked down the end of this road.
Yes.
And this goes into a footpath.
Yes.
This is a footpath. It's not a road. And there would be a lot of resistance about upgrading that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it depends what we did with it. I mean, upgrading the road we won't like. But I mean, what we do with that field is wonderful. If anything, you know, but it looks like it was a wasted field. I think they have had horses in it from time to time.
That's true. That's true. But you know, the more I think of it, one would probably want to exhaust the possibility of actually just developing the farm itself.
Yes.
And it only maybe as a second phase or as a kind of a sweetener to look at you know, adding stuff down here. That would probably be the easiest way to get tacit approval from all parties.
Yes.
If we could resolve, I mean, it may be that the traffic issue. There's two. One is that the road itself is not that big, but the other is this junction here, which is the way in, is not a very good junction. A better junction would be here somewhere, into directly in, you know, off this into there.
You get a better
kind of car park.
sight of vehicles, don't you?
Yeah, and you could get the vision displays a lot better, because this is a bit of a torture. You would not get a coach around there, for instance, but you know, you might around here. I also wanted to. I did want to show you this here, which is on Loudwater Lane, which is a substantial operation. What they call it. This is a Hindu centre.
Yeah, it is big, isn't it?
Let me just get in there. Yeah, this is called Glen Chess, but so what they do is that, you know, they come down there, they come in there, and then around there they kind of get a loop. So they get a substantial amount of development off the back of this, whatever that is. And you can see there's quite a lot of development there, and it goes back.
And overlooks the field, presumably.
Pardon?
And it overlooks the field.
And it overlooks the field, overlooks just got the lane of it. The computer's getting a bit slow. What an amazing bit of technology we have here.
Fantastic, isn't it? Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the field.
Oh yeah.
That you said.
Well, you could see that they couldn't object too much to a pond, could they? Especially since it's wetland down there.
Yeah.
And a proper bridge might suit a lot of people. Might
Yeah.
make it better for the residents to go for a walk.
Yeah, and it actually exists. This has got an interesting entrance in there, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can see in the distance here, this is the substantial woodland area,
Yeah.
which screens the school.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, I think you keep that.
of course, yeah.
So let's get out of the street here.
So we were talking about
Let me just
what could we produce soon to ignite the enthusiasm of the Loudwater group, if you like,
yeah,
and help them feel that something was possible and not too dangerous and well, exciting for them. Because
yeah,
at the moment they're all holding their heads in their hands and saying, you know, we have a terrible situation where we've either got to get out in the next few years, and I think they've got an option to extract themselves from the lease in the next year or two, or you know, more of the same is really not on. I mean, they're hemorrhaging money and need to find a possible way forward. Now, it might cost a few £1 million to upgrade Loudwater Fire, but actually, if we did it with a real purpose, it could generate quite a lot of money for them and easily pay for.
well, it's very interesting. We're talking about this today because you know me, I'm a numbers kind of person, and I think about stuff. This place where it's not dissimilar to Loudwater Farm, Kipper Estate, where we were going to have a national meeting. And currently, a full day is about €100.
That includes a meal and accommodation overnight.
Absolutely, and they've got 20 houses there, which can take 6 people in a house. So in terms of refugees, they've got 120 people, and the government's shelling out £100 a head for that, €100 a head. So you work out that number, the amount of money that place is going to generate out as a refugee centre. And I'm not saying we should do it as a refugee centre, but it just shows you when you've got
accommodation, people will
when you've got accommodation and you've got something which you can get high occupancy, you're into the multi-million pounds. I mean, I think I worked it out. You're into something like, well, what is that? That's, let me just work it out. It's 120 people times 100. Yeah. That's 12,000 a day, and you get that for a year, and that's 4.5 million turnover. And you would expect, any F&B operation is after 35% net profit. So you get that, and that's generating 1.5 million net profit a year. So then that represents, then if you have any enterprise which generates cash of 1.5 million a year, the value of that enterprise is about 15 times that.
Wow.
So you're into kind of 20 million. So I'm not saying that will be the case in Loudwater, but it does show you that with the right kind of facilities. And I think I'm not saying you have to build 20 houses there, but you could do it certainly. You could certainly. The feeling that I've got about any accommodation business, it's got to be able to take a coach. I mean, that's to me the bargain basement, the minimum. You've got to be able to take a coach, whether it's children or whatever. So that's 60 people. So that's where you start. So can you design a facility there which residentially you can get 60 people in? And if you can get 60 people in a place, then if in that kind of
built area on the site already is quite substantial, and probably half of it isn't used, more than half of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a small fraction of it is being used.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you take the built area, which is usually what planners squeal about, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you take the buildings that exist and maybe make them all 2-story,
Yeah.
How many bedrooms could you get? I mean, look at it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, if you did a different entrance, if you get rid of that entrance.
Yeah, that's all part of the rebuild.
And you've got you put a new building here. Is that the? I don't think that's the. Yeah, no, that's a pretty crap building here. So if you got rid of that and built, an entrance building,
Yeah, proper building.
you effectively have got a quadrangle.
Yeah, you have, yeah.
That you could develop,
Yeah.
and you could then maybe produce another quadrangle around there
Yeah.
on the other side, and this part you're retaining. You probably easily retain the heritage building. You could put a new bit of building in here
And there.
and
Well,
there,
yeah.
or part of there, or extend it. This is the house, I think, isn't it? Just here.
That's the what?
The house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is the house.
Yeah.
So I can see, if you change, as I say, if you change the entrance.
That's the barn up there, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got. I mean, you could develop that as a first phase, and you still got area here. You can do this.
Yeah.
Extend this as a second phase. You've got, I'm sure you could get that kind of level of facility there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it would be easy, but if it was if it had support, or at least not if it had the tacit approval of the Masons, and in a way the support of these people,
the local authority, the education people,
and these new people and the educational authority, then
I think you've got a good chance.
You might well be able to get all that development in there.
Yeah.
And you've got the example here of a substantial development, that goes back here, and buildings back here as well. So this is a big operation that they got here, and that's off Loudwater Lane, as you can see. So you can see that it would not be, it's not beyond the width of man to be able to think that you could get a new. That to me is crying out as an entrance and a turning space and a new building here. And then you're keeping this is the listed building, this one up here. Well, you've got to keep that, and you probably keep it as a separate building. But you use this one to link through this, and this, and maybe this lot around here.
Yeah.
No doubt about it, you could get significant development there. So I think that's interesting.
It is, yeah.
And I think it would be worth it could be worth. I mean, you're right. It might take $1 million or $2 million to be able to make it.
I think it would.
But I think in terms of value, you've potentially got something of multi-million value, and it makes it kind of work. And it takes it, actually, to me, one of the advantages of doing it like this is it takes it out of the hands of children and puts it into the hands of either a trust or a leaconator, like a dedicated facility of which uses it, as and when.
But we need a doodle.
We need a what?
A doodle, a little drawing, or
the reason I suggested recording this, Conrad, is maybe we should just send this recording of this conversation to
Stephen, because
it illustrates our thinking, and if they're generally supportive of our thinking, then let's go to that next stage of a few thousand to work out a doodle based on what it is that we've sketched out, and I'd be happy to work on that. But I'm not going to do it for nothing. But you know, I think you put a proposal to them.
I said it costs kind of around between 3,000 and 5,000, including expenses.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think this would be my view. Send them this. Have a look at it. We're happy to follow it up with another Zoom with them, even before they got a commitment to go further.
Well, if you send me the link, Stephen is having a group meeting again on Sunday.
Yeah.
And we're going to test with him whether he should be the chairman of the group.
Yeah.
And he, as the new chair, might be interested in this conversation that we've had.
Yeah.
When we talked this morning, I thought you were thinking maybe a little bit more than just this conversation.
Well, it's true. I think it needs. Well, it needs, and I think we've done that. You need to think about what kind of facility you're talking about. To me, as I said, from my perspective, you got to be able to put up 60 people. You know, that's a basic given.
Well, in
So
the square,
that's where you start.
In
Pardon?
the square that you've identified, do you think with 2-story buildings that you could get accommodation for 60 people?
Yeah, pretty sure you could. Yeah, so you have a residential facility for 60 people. You've got a hall.
You've got the bar,
a hall or an exhibition space.
Bar.
You've got to have a hall and an exhibition space, whether that's in the listed building or whether it's somewhere else. I don't know. You know, you'd have to suck it and see. And it may be.
You can cover your square.
You're filling in the square. So there's an exhibition hall. There's a residential facility. Then there's what other things that you have? Is it an audio visual place, or do you have something going on?
Classrooms, laboratories.
Yeah. Do you have? This is the thing I was also thinking about. You know, if we had progress on Feed a Million in Sheffield, this is the kind of thing that you would, you know, show. And if we were looking at developing Feed a Million in other parts of the world, in Africa and Sudan and Malawi and the United States, that's the kind of thing that you could showcase in a place like that. Mm-hmm. And you might even have some basic facilities which shows the growing,
the kids might like to do some of that on their own further out in the site somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, things like solar panels. I mean, you could investigate even taking some heat out of the River Chess. I don't know whether that's possible or not, but that is done. I know people do that.
Yeah.
So there's, even if it's not economically viable, it's as an experiment, as a demonstration. It doesn't need to be. Not everything needs to be commercially viable. There can be,
the overall thing that needs to be. If you look at individual bits, bits might not work.
So I think, I think that's interesting.
I'd have thought that this kind of approach might be more interesting to the landlord too, to the tenant.
Definitely.
Because he's watched us for 40 years, not actually get very far. Hi, Edie, how are you doing? Okay, great. Well, nice to see you. Toodaloo. Bye-bye. So that's our granddaughter Edie, just leaving. Came to say goodbye. Yes, I mean, I think that the kind of approach that we've had with the Masons is very underwhelming. I mean, it's not very exciting for the Seward folk, and it's not very exciting for them as landlords. And although the school were really enthusiastic about the idea, and they thought that the local authority would be, and some of the suburb members like Andrew Holloway said he'd been involved with designing and building a similar centre. I don't know if it was in West Sussex, but somewhere
in Hampshire.
Yeah, and he's got experience of having been involved with that, and he said that the local authority were very much involved in that whole process.
Yeah.
So often what I find is when one local authority does something and it goes well, the others think, oh, well, that sounds good. Maybe we could do something like that here.
Yeah.
And as you say, this Loudwater Farm seems to sit in not only the edge of Rickmansworth Park, but further afield. You know, you can walk around the houses and you're into a much bigger area for exploration and maybe even further accommodation if you needed it.
Yeah.
Other specialist elements of the environmental education scene, you know. So yeah, well. But I come back to what we were talking about this morning. Do you think we need to, I don't know, do you need to put your ruler across the square and say, I think we could get 40 bedrooms in this bit and 20 rooms in that bit and another bit there, and the whole thing, if you did all this, might cost X thousand square meters multiplied by so much a square meter. The whole thing could cost us, I don't know, £3 million to build it. But we have X bedrooms and take it from there.
Well, I think that's right. I think that would be the value of this first exercise, is that you would have a 3D visual image with drawings and showing how this could work and could look, with a schedule of you know, what's on the ground, and with a kind of budget for how much that will cost and how much you would be generating, you know, with basic assumptions.
And it shows all the interested parties that the suburb organisation is taking it seriously. Because at the moment we're not putting anything forward.
No, absolutely.
Serious. We're saying let's leave what we've got.
Well, I think this is where I mean, I'm reluctant to do this without it having the approval of the group. So I think, to me, this is what I think. Send this link, this conversation to the Stephen. I'm happy that we can have another Zoom if you want to talk about it further. But you know, that's what we would do. What we would do would be looking at this. Let's look at it again. We would come up with a scheme that I think the short term is that there's a way to retain this fellow, which is the listed building, to fill out a building here and to link it around, either around this as a courtyard or around this whole area there as a courtyard. And I'd have to kind of look at that. But if you once you change this access, then you know you actually got a bit of space up here. You could actually you know, take, this is a shed. Take
so it's the one on the right of that,
and you could actually
come
out here. And this could be a very nice little quadrangle there. And I'm sure as a first look, that would be probably enough. But then you still have got further possibilities here. That's kind of a phase 2, and you know, coming out here, this is kind of phase 3, and you know, there's phase 4s that you could develop here. But that first bit as a development, I'm not saying it's a slam dunk from a planning point of view. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure there would be objections. But if it had the support of the school and the tacit support of the Masons, then I think you're in with more than a 50-50 chance. And you've got the core then of a really nice looking facility. You know,
it's more than just the school. There'd be the other schools in the area that we could talk to, as well as the education authority.
Indeed.
And the value of having something like this on their territory that's easily accessible and
Yeah.
environmentally perfect for what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, this honey pot sitting in the middle, being underutilized.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, good. Okay. Should we leave it at
Okay.
that then?
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I'll save this.
If you send me the link, I'll pass it on to Stephen
Yeah. Okay.
in the next few hours. Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lucas.
Cheers,
We'll
comrade.
probably talk again.
No doubt.
Toodaloo.